Thank you very much. Thank you to the Pancreatic Cancer Europe and to Cancer Patients Europe for hosting this very important webinar and for inviting the Commission to share with you, as you said, this very exciting and groundbreaking, innovative work that we're doing, really co-creating the process of involvement of patients in the HTA regulation. So, as you said, my name is Maya Matthews. I've been working on the regulation since 2022 when it came to my unit. And then I think also as a signal of how important the European Commission takes this regulation, a dedicated HTA unit was created in June 2025, at the end of June 2025. So next slide, please. I'm going to first give you a very brief overview of what the regulation is, what it aims to do, and then zoom in on the involvement of patients and clinicians, and then also leave you with the state of play where we are today in implementing the regulation. So for those of you who are not so familiar with the regulation, it applied from January this year. And it aims to create a common framework for procedures on how to cooperate between member states on health technology assessments. It aims for high quality, evidence-based decision-making, and the principles of transparency and inclusiveness are inherent in the regulation. Next slide, please. So the joint work of this regulation is really driven by member states. It's the member states who are doing a lot of the analysis, the scientific work, and the Commission facilitates this process through an HTA Secretariat, which is based in my unit. The stars that you see there are where there is absolutely direct patient and clinician involvement. And these are four kind of buckets, I'd say, of the most important work, the deliverables of this regulation. The first one being the joint clinical assessment, which is really the report that is written by member state experts with the involvement of patients and clinicians on the relative effectiveness, and this is only the clinical part, so it's not the economic part, the clinical part, of new medicines which haven't yet been authorized. And this is a very important point that I think many people are not aware of, that this work starts before the new medicines have actually been authorized. These reports are basically comparing the relative effectiveness of this new medicine with the existing treatment. And there's a progressive start, because it would be impossible to start all of this from scratch. So we are starting with new cancer medicines and advanced therapy medicinal products. And in 2028, we will add also orphan medicines. And then the idea is that from 2030, it would be all centrally approved medicines, meaning that go through the application of the European Medicines Agency. Another very important piece of work that this HTA regulation is driving is the research component. And so we offer a service to companies known as joint scientific consultations. And this is a service that is for free. And it's basically companies apply or request to have advice on what should be in their clinical study designs, so that the joint clinical assessment process can be more efficient and effective. And I'm happy to say that we have already concluded one such joint scientific consultation. And then the two other important pieces of joint work are the identification of emerging health technologies, also known as horizon scanning. And here the idea is really to pool the intelligence of the different HTA bodies, so that the member states can plan better about what they see coming up in the future, so that they can have the right experts to be there at the right time. And then, of course, as I said, this is really creating a common EU framework. So for a common EU framework, you need common methodologies and procedures. And we have a very active group, a subgroup on methodologies that are working very hard to make sure that, as I said earlier, the work that is coming out of this regulation is of high quality. Next slide, please. And the aim, just to remind everyone, is, as I said, it's an aim to pool the expertise across the member states, to avoid duplication, to really build synergies, to ensure high quality and timely assessments. And then, as you mentioned, access is very important. So the idea behind this regulation is that these joint clinical assessment reports will be available for all member states to use 30 days after the Commission has authorized the medicine. And this is really with a view to supporting member states in their decision-making processes. So their health technology assessments, which add the contextual part, the economic evaluation part, all member states will be able to use this and will be able to focus on that part because the joint clinical assessment part would already have been done at the EU level. And again, with high quality and with the systematic involvement of patients and clinicians. Next slide, please. So you may be asking now, how does this work, the identification and selection of patients and clinicians? And I do think that, just think for a moment, I think that this is the first regulation of its kind that has the systematic involvement of patients and clinicians in two of the main outputs of this regulation. And here I'm just going to walk you through how this is done. It's process, but I think it's important to take some time because I want to acknowledge that we could not have done this work without the involvement of patients' organizations, many of whom are here today, because we have created under the regulation a stakeholder network, HTA Stakeholder Network, which has over 70 members from multi-sectoral groups. And within that, we created a working group just on the identification of patients and clinicians. And I'm very glad that many of you are here today. We have 25, these are voluntary, they chose to be part of this. We have 15 patients organizations and 10 clinician organizations. We've had 4 meetings to date. And the meetings are with the organizations involved, but also with the member state chairs, with the European Medicines Agency, and with the Brussels Center for Collaboration in Health. And Marcus Guardian is here, and he will also complement later on in the seminar about how we aim to make this as seamless and as user-friendly and as effective as possible. So what happens is, the first step is that we need to get the information from the member states subgroups on what kind of expertise they need. And this is usually based on the information they have received from the company, from the HTD, on the indication and on the type of product that they are seeking for authorization or that they're seeking for joint scientific advice, consultations. And then, and this is where we've now created this group. In my unit, Julie Sponny, who I think many of you know now, and Lucrezia Twist, they are the kind of leaders in this. They then send messages to the relevant organizations in the stakeholder network to ask them for suggestions, recommendations for patients or clinicians that would fit the type of profile that we're looking for. And usually we provide the conditions. And then, and this is where I can really say that it's working very well. It's very resource intensive, but we're really trying to find ways to make it more efficient. We receive all of the input from the patients' organizations and the clinician organizations. And then we contact the patients and the clinicians. We ask them to fill out a declaration of interest form through this very secure IT platform that we have. And then we build up a list of the relevant patients and clinicians, and then we propose those to the subgroup. And this is very important because I think this also shows you this is not the Commission deciding. This is really taking it at a very European level, and the subgroup then selects the relevant patient and clinician that they would like to be involved in the particular joint clinical assessment or joint scientific consultation. And then once that person is selected, their name is handed over to the Brussels Center for Collaboration in Health, And this is the administrative body facilitating the framework contract, the consortium of all the HTA bodies who carry out this work. And this is so that the work of the patients and the clinicians can be compensated. So we understand that patients and clinicians are very busy people, and I would like to take this opportunity to already thank all of those who've been involved so far, because so far we have seen that there's a lot of engagement. We know that this is a new process, and we're just very grateful for all of the associations in the Stakeholder Network working group, but also the individual patients and clinicians who've been so motivated to be part of this. Next slide, please. And so just to tell you a little bit about where we are in this process. So we have at the moment 9 ongoing procedures on the joint clinical assessment. And you can see on the website, on the Europa website, we provide information, but we can only provide the information after the European Medicines Agency has validated the authorization. So it's similar to what the European Medicines Agency has on their website. With the novelty is that we also share with you the organizations from the member states that are carrying out the joint clinical assessments. And part of that is also to show and to give the signal that this is really being done at a European level. This is a really European work, because up to now, with 9 ongoing joint clinical assessments, we have 12 member state organizations involved. And as I said, the joint scientific consultations, we launched 2 requests for interest from the companies in earlier this year. And we have 7 slots identified, and the first products are now being finalized, the request. This information is highly confidential information. And I should say that all of this work that we're doing, because we're trying to be facilitating access, a lot of this work is happening when, as I said, the medicines have not yet been authorized. So we have to keep a lot of confidentiality and security measures in place. And just to give you some numbers, up to now, we have been in contact, thanks to organizations such as those of you here today and sponsoring this webinar. We have had individual contacts with 180 patients, and more than 30 patients, carers, and clinicians are currently involved in the joint scientific consultations and joint clinical assessment process. So I think we're getting to a stage now where we can learn a lot from this process, and I'd be very happy to also hear a little bit today. I know there's many people today who've already been involved. Just a caveat, please don't mention anything product specific in the webinar today. As I said, we need to be very mindful that many of the patients and clinicians, they have to sign confidentiality agreements, because the information that they are being asked to give their opinions on, as I said, are highly confidential and commercially sensitive. Next slide, please. So to conclude, I just wanted to say that we are learning a lot, and we are very excited to be going on this journey with you. And already we've had a lot of learnings, I think, and we keep on tweaking a little bit. And so it's a learning by doing exercise. We think it's very important to use occasions like today to raise awareness about the HTA regulation to companies, but also to patients' organizations, clinicians, about how they can be involved, how this is really something that they can bring all of their expertise, as you said, and their feedback to this European level. And in this regard, we do recognize the need to follow up with more training and capacity building, so that this really becomes the norm, and that this systematic involvement of patients and clinicians in this process will become easier and more effective as we continue on this journey. So thank you very much.